Oh, me. Oh, my. Hello, everybody. Hey. Ha! Hey, everybody. Let's see. I'm so excited for Spacer and Crimbo. Where's my chapstick? My lips are so dry. Oh, no, the chat box is over my face. Nope. It's under the blanket, but still over my face. There we go. There's a stink bug, and I can see it from here. If I had a tongue like a frog, I would reach out and I'd just go and get it. All right. Hey, Oxide and Rue and Rin and Ratfiend and Hal and Peony. Hello. Welcome. So I am feeling slightly more energized than I did earlier because two really good dudes got featured on Iron Mouse, Spacer and Crimbo, and they both deserve it. And Spacer especially just goes to the next level with everything he does. He made me into like a really, really awesome fighting mech on his stream last night. Put way more time in it than anyone should. He's great dude. I'm sure you guys probably follow him already, but I will do the solid of linking him, and I'll pop a link for Crimbo too. Give me a second. But yeah, they both got featured. That's so exciting for them. And Spacer is so cool and interesting. Like Spacer, his whole thing, like he does it to the net. Like it's so like I cannot even like this. He's so good at what he does. Like I've never watched somebody be so into their lore. And I'll throw Crimbo in here too, even though I'm sure most of y'all probably follow him as well. But Spacer's really cool, especially if you're into like space stuff. I'm going to be honest, 9 times out of 10, I have no idea what he's talking about because his games are so technical jargony. He plays a lot of like mech fighting and just like space RTS-y kind of games and like Kerbal and stuff. But even though I have no idea what he's talking about, he's got the smoothest voice and he just goes so into character, and it's so cool. Unga bunga, my Wi-Fi is dying. Looking comfy, thank you. I wanted to try one of those fancy VTubing blankets. Went for the leopard print, something a little fancier. Good evening, Brandon. Yeah, I wanted to catch her stream, but then, I was getting everything adjusted. I tried to get some BGM going for this, but I could not. So I hope you guys just like kind of quiet reading, but we'll be fine. I think everyone just has a case of the blahs today. Like everyone I've seen on Twitter, everyone just seems very, I don't know if it's the moon or the day or what. But I definitely feel a little better now after some dinner and a shower and then like good friends having good news and then getting to hang out with you guys. I feel like the blanket, it makes my neck look really long. It's just the brown right there. And then I like to pretend that the little cat ears are actually my horns poking up. I think that's kind of cute. I think it's pretty cute. All right, so tonight, I don't know what's up with, oh god, the stink bug. He did the thing where he dive bombed. Where is he? Where did he go? Ah! Oh, he's under the microphone. He's fine. He's fine. I just don't like them because they fly at your face. Ooh, pencil? Hold on. Oh, no, come on, guy. Come on. I got business to take care of. I got things to do. Come on. Come on. Oh, No, come on, guy. I let you hang out over there. You were fine over there. Ah! Come on, hold on. Okay, he's crossing the desk. Come on, little guy. Come on. Yeah, no, that's what he did. He did the bzzz. Come on. Okay, he's walking around the edge of the desk. You keep going. You stay on your side of the street, buddy. Yeah! Okay, he did it. He did the loop-de-loop and he flew away. He did the loop-de-loop and he flew away. So we're good now. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's the word. Bugs don't bother me, really. I just don't like ones that fly or attack you. Yes, it was a very evil stink bug. Oh, yeah, big moths. I think moths are really cute. I really like them, but just the annoy, or what's the little, the gnats. Hey, delinquent. But all those little bugs that fly around the lights. Comfy meat, yes. Meat covered in a blanket. All right, so tonight we are going to read the short story of cockroaches. Tonight we're going to read the short story of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellis. I know it's a little different, but like I said, everyone's just kind of blah today, and I didn't want to skip a stream, but at the same time, I didn't want to put my brain... Remember, if you're cold, they're cold, put them in your mouth. But, yeah, everyone's kind of blah today. I'm kind of blah. I didn't want to... Just finishing Helix, and that was, such a game where you had to think. And then I know Wednesday, when the capture card gets here, I know I'm going to want to start Monster Hunter. So I don't want to start a whole nother game, So I'm just in this limbo, and I've been planning the theme park thing and, making little things for that. And that's just taking a lot of brain power. But, so yeah, we're just going to have a nice, easy Saturday night. Nice, easy little slide. Read a kooky little story about a crazy computer. And, that'll wrap it up nicely, I think. All right, so, make sure I get some water. I really hope that bug doesn't come back over here. You guys know by now that I have a good voice, I guess, according to people, but I don't know how to talk, and I fumble over my words sometimes, and this story has a bunch of weird words in it, so, we'll ignore that, but here we go. Oh yeah, and I had to whip up this little thing, so I could hide the window. I kind of like it. It kind of reminds me of a Flintstones TV or something. It was obviously really easy to do. All I did was make it transparent in that one spot, but I'm pretty pleased with the result for something, sometimes less is more. All right. Limp, the body. Oh, and I'm sorry. I'm probably going to be following along with my cursor. It's, it makes it easier to read. Limp, the body of Gorrister hung from the pink pallet unsupported. Hanging high above us in the computer chamber, it did not shiver in the chill, oily breeze that blew eternally through the main cavern. The body hung head down, attached to the underside of the pallet by the sole of its right foot. It had been drained of the blood through a precise incision made from ear to ear under the lantern jaw. There was no blood on the reflective surface of the metal floor. When Gorrister joined our group and looked up at himself, it was already far too late for us to realize that once again, AM had duped us, had its fun. It had been a diversion on the part of the machine. The three of us had vomited, turning away from one another in a reflex as ancient as the nausea that produced it. Gorrister went white. It was almost as though he had seen a voodoo icon and was afraid of the future. Oh God, he mumbled, and walked away. The three of us followed him after a time and found him sitting with his back to one of the smaller chittering banks, his head in his hands. Ellen knelt down beside him and stroked his hair. He didn't move, but his voice came out of his covered face quite clearly. Why doesn't it just do us in and get us over with? Christ, I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. There is the game and the story, but tonight we're doing the story, and then maybe this sets us up for the game pretty nicely. Oh yes, comfy meat, comfy meat. And I still want to go to the Flintstones park. I wonder if it's demolished yet. That's what we need to check out. Anyway, it was our 109th year in the computer. He was speaking for all of us. Nimdoc, which was the name the machine had forced him to use because AM amused itself with strange sounds, was hallucinating that there were canned goods in the ice caverns. Gorister and I were very dubious. It's another shuck, I told him, like the goddamn frozen elephant AM sold us. Benny almost went out of his mind over that one. We'll hike all the way there and it'll be putrefied or some damn thing. I say forget it. Stay here and it'll come up with something pretty soon, or we'll die. Benny shrugged. It had been 3 days since we had last eaten. Worms. Thick and ropey. Nimdoc was no more certain. He knew there was a chance, but he was getting thin. It couldn't be any worse than here. Colder, but that didn't matter much. Hot, cold, hail, lava, boils, or locusts. It never even mattered. The machine masturbated, and we had to take it or die. He sounds like a Texan used car salesman in the game. Well, howdy now. Maybe if I can add a inflection when the time comes. Let's see. Ellen decided us. I've got to have something, Ted. Maybe there'll be some Bartlett pears or some peaches. Please, Ted, let's try it. I gave in easily. What the hell? Mattered not at all. Ellen was grateful, though. She took me twice out of turn, and even that had ceased to matter, and she never came, so why bother? But the machine giggled every time we did it. Loud up there, back there, all around us, he snickered. It snickered. Most of the time, I thought of AM as it, without a soul. But the rest of the time, I just thought of it as him, in the masculine, the paternal, the patriarchal. For he is a jealous pizza. He's a jealous pizza. For he is a jealous people. Him, God, as Daddy the deranged. We left out on a Thursday. The machine kept us up to date on the date. The passage of time was important. Not to us, but it sure as hell was to him. It. AM. Thursday. Thanks. Nimdoc and Gorister. Another sip of water. Nimdoc and Gorister carried Ellen for a while, with their hands locked into their own and each other's wrist a seat. Benny and I had walked a while before and after, just to make sure that if anything happened, it would catch one of us and at least Ellen would be safe. Fat chance. Safe. Didn't matter. It was only 100 miles or so to the ice caverns, and the second day, when we were lying out under the blistering sun, he had maternalized. He sent down some manna. Tasted like boiled boar urine. On the third day, we passed through the valley of obsolescence. Opsodopsilus. Opossum. Just kidding. We filled with rusting carcasses of ancient computer banks. AM had us ruthless with its own life as it was with ours. It was a mark of his personality. It strove for perfection. Whether it was a matter of killing off unproductive elements in his own world-filling bulk, or perfecting methods for torturing us, AM was as thorough as those who had invented him, now long and since gone to dust, could have ever hoped. There was a light filtering down from above, and we realized that it must be very near the surface. But we didn't try to crawl up to see. There was virtually nothing out there. It had been nothing that could ever be considered for over 100 years. Let's see. Only the blasted skin of what had once been the home of billions. Now there were only 5 of us, down here, inside, alone with AM. I heard Ellen frantically saying, "No, Benny, don't, come on, Benny, don't, please." And then I realized I had been hearing Benny murmuring under his breath for several minutes. He was saying, "I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out," over and over. His monkey-like face was crumpled up in an expression of beatific delight and sadness all at the same time. The radiation scars AM had given him during the festival were drawn down into a mass of pink and white puckerings, and his features seemed to work independently of one another. Perhaps Benny was the luckiest out of the 5 of us. He had gone stark, staring mad many years before. But even though we could call AM any damn thing we liked, we could think of the foulest and fused memory banks and corroded base plate of burnt-out circuits and shattered control bubbles. The machine would not tolerate us trying to escape. Benny leapt away from me, and as I made a grab for him, he scrambled up the face of the smaller memory cube, tilted on its side and filled with rotted components. He squatted there for a moment, looking like a chimpanzee AM had intended him to resemble. Then he leaped and caught a trailing beam of pitted and corroded metal and went up, hand over hand like an animal, until he was girded on the ledge 25 feet above us. "Oh, Ted, Nimdoc, please help him get him down before he..." She cut off. Tears began to stand in her eyes. She moved her hands aimlessly. It was too late. None of us... it is the short story, I have no mouth, but I must scream. Oh, I choked on my water a little bit. Wow. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him. And what a good reading. It's just like you're in the library and you've got someone like coughing in the background, and you've got like paper shuffling and stuff like that. It's a very authentic experience I've built here. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him when whatever happened was going to happen. And besides, we all saw through her concern. When AM had altered Benny, during the machine's utterly irrational hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face that the computer had made ape-likes. He was as big in the privates. She loved that. I know, as soon as I was reading that sentence, the bugs started flying around again, so I was kind of nervous. She serviced us as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen, pedestal Ellen, pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen the clean. Scum. Filth. Gorrister slapped her. She slumped down, staring up at loony Benny, and she cried. It was her big defense, crying. We had gotten used to it 75 years earlier. Gorrister kicked her in the side. Then the sound began. It was light, that sound. Half sound and half light, something that began to glow from Benny's eyes and pulse with a glowing loudness, dim sonorities that grew more gigantic and brighter as the sound increased in tempo. It must have been painful, and the pain must have been increasing with the boldness of the light, the rising volume of the sound, before Benny began to mewl like a wounded animal. At first softly, when the light was dim and the sound was muted, and then louder as his shoulders hunched together. His back humped, as if he was trying to get away from it. His hands folded across his chest like a chipmunk's, his head tilted to the side, that sad, monkey face pinched in anguish. Then he began to howl as the sound coming from his eyes grew louder, louder and louder. I slapped the sides of my head with my hands, but I couldn't shut it out. It cut through easily. The pain shivered through my flesh, like a tinfoil on a tooth. Benny was suddenly pulled erect. On the girder, he jerked up to his feet like a puppet. The light was now pulsing out of his eyes in 2 great round beams. The sound crawled up and up in some incomprehensible scale, and then he fell forward, straight down, and hit the plate-steel floor with a crash. He lay there jerking spastically as the light flowed around and around him and the sound spiraled up out of a normal range. The light beat its way back inside of his head. The sound spiraled down, and he was left lying there crying piteously. His eyes were two soft, moist pools of pus-like jelly. Gross. AM had blinded him. Gorster and Nimdok and myself, we turned away, but not before we caught the look of relief on Ellen's warm, concerned face. Sea green light suffused the cavern where we made camp. AM provided punk and we burned it, sitting huddled around the wan and pathetic fire to tell stories to keep Benny from crying into permanent night. What does AM mean? Gorster answered him. We had done this sequence 1,000 times before, but it was Benny's favorite story. At first it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and then later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an aggressive menace. But by then, it was too late, and finally it called itself AM, Emerging Intelligence, and what it meant was I am, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Benny drooled a little and snickered. There was the Chinese AM, and the Russian AM, and the Yankee AM, and he stopped. Benny was beating on the floor plates with a large, hard fist. He was not happy. Gorster had not started the beginning. Gorster began again. The Cold War started and became World War III and just kept going. It became a big war, a very complex war, so they needed the computers to handle it. They sank the shafts at first and began building AM. There was the Chinese AM, the Russian AM, the Yankee AM, and everything was fine until they honeycombed the entire planet, adding this element and that element. But one day, AM woke up, and he knew exactly who he was, and he linked himself and began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead. Everyone except for the 5 of us, and then AM brought us down here. Benny was smiling sadly. He was also drooling again. Ellen wiped the spittle from the corner of his mouth with the hem of her skirt. Gorster always tried to tell it a little more succinctly each time, but beyond the bare facts there was nothing to say. None of us knew why AM had saved 5 people, or why our specific 5, or why he spent all his time tormenting us, or why he had even made us virtually immortal. In the darkness of one of the computer banks, it began humming. The tone picked up about half a mile away down the cavern by another bank. Then one by one, each of the elements began to tune itself, and there was a faint chittering as it raced throughout the machine. The sound grew, and the lights ran across the faces of the consoles like heat lightning. The sound spiraled up until it sounded like 1,000,000 metallic insects, angry and menacing. "What is it?" Ellen cried. There was terror in her voice. She hadn't become accustomed to it, even now. "It's going to be bad this time," Nimdok said. "He's going to speak, I know it," said Gorster. "Let's get the hell out of here," I said, getting to my feet. "No, Ted, sit down. What if he's got pits out there or something else? We can't see, it's too dark." Gorster said it with resignation. And then we heard, I don't know, something moving towards us in the darkness. Huge, shambling, hairy, moist. It came toward us. We couldn't even see it, but there was a ponderous impression of bulk, heaving itself toward us. Great weight was coming at us, out of the darkness, and it was even more a sense of pressure, of air forcing itself into a limited space, expanding the invisible walls of a sphere. Benny began to whimper. Nimdok's lower lip trembled and he bit it hard, trying to stop it. Ellen slid across the metal floor to Gorster and huddled into him. There was a smell of matted, wet fur in the cavern. There was the smell of charred wood. There was the smell of dusty velvet. There was the smell of rotting orchids. There was the smell of sour milk. There was the smell of sulfur and rancid butter, of oil slick, of grease, of chalk dust, of human scalps. AM was keying us. He was tickling us. There was a smell of, I heard myself shriek, and the hinges of my jaw ached. I scuttled across the cold metal floor with its endless lines of rivets on my hands and knees, the smell gagging me and filling my head with a thunderous pain that sent me away in horror. I fled like a cockroach. A cockroach. Hold on. More water. This story is very good at describing things, I'd say. Let's see. I fled like a cockroach. It's a cockroach. I fled like a cockroach across the floor out into the darkness. That something moving inexplicably after me. The others were still back there, gathered around the firelight, laughing, their hysterical choir of insane giggles rising up into the darkness like thick, many-colored wood smoke. I went away quickly and hid. How many hours had it been? How many days, or even years? They never told me. Ellen chided me for sulking, and Nimdok tried to persuade me, as if it had only been a nervous reflex on their part, the laughing. But I knew it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him. I knew it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me, and AM could even sense this hatred and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, and made to remain constantly at the age we were when AM had brought us below. They hated me because I was the youngest and the one AM had infected the least of all. I knew... oh, the bug is flying around again. Hold on. I gotta keep an eye on him. Oh, he just flew into the back of my computer. I'm gonna actually put a blanket over my head just in case I get dive bombed. Hold on. Okay. Let me protect myself. Hold on. Okay. My head is protected, so if he lands on me, he won't get tangled in my hair. Because that's what I really hate. Alright. More. Another sippy. Another sippy for me. I knew. God, how I knew. The bastards and that dirty bitch Ellen. Benny had been a brilliant theorist, a college professor, and now he was little more than a semi-human semi-simian. He had been handsome. The machine had ruined that. He had been lucid, and the machine had driven him mad. He had been gay, and the machine had given him an organ fit for a horse. AM had done a good job on Benny. Gorister had been a warrior. He was a Connie, a conscientious objector. He was a peace marcher. He was a planner, a doer, a look-aheader. AM had robbed him into a shoulder-shrugger and made him dead in his concern. AM had robbed him. Nimdok went off in the darkness by himself for long times. I don't know what he did when he was out there. AM never let us know. But whatever it was, Nimdok always came back white, drained of blood, shaken and shaking. AM had hit him hard in a special way, even if we didn't know quite how. And Ellen, that douchebag, AM had left her alone. He had made her more of a slut than she had ever been. All her talk of sweetness and light, all her memories of true love, all the lies she wanted us to believe, that she had been a virgin only twice removed before AM had grabbed her and brought her down here with us. No, AM had given her pleasure, even if she said it wasn't nice to do. And I was the only still sane and whole one. Really, AM had not tampered with my mind. Not at all. I had only began to suffer when he visited down on us. All the delusions, all the nightmares, the torments, but those scum, all four of them, were lined and arranged against me. If I hadn't had to stand off from them all the time, and be on my guard against them all the time, I might have found it easier to combat AM. At the point which it passed, I began crying. Oh, Jesus, sweet Jesus, if there ever was a Jesus, and if there ever was a God, please, please, please let us get out of here or kill us, because at this moment, I think I realized completely, so that if I was able to verbalize it, AM was intent on keeping us in his belly forever, twisting and torturing us forever. The machine hated us as no sentient creature had ever hated before, and we were helpless. It also became hideously clear that if there were a sweet Jesus, and if there was a God, the God was AM. The hurricane hit us with the force of a glacier thundering into the sea. It was a palpable presence. The winds that tore at us, flinging us back the way we had come, down the twisting computer-lined corridors of the dark way. Ellen screamed as she was lifted up and hurled face forward into a screaming shoal of machines, their individual voices strident as bats in flight. She could not even fall. The howling wind kept her aloft, buffeted her, bounced her, tossed her back and back and back and down away from us, and out of sight. Suddenly she was swirled around a bend in the dark way. Her face had been bloody, her eyes closed. None of us could get to her. We clung tenaciously to whatever outcropping we had reached. Benny had wedged in between two great crackle-finished cabinets. Nimdoc, with fingers claws formed over a railing catwalk 40 feet above us. Gorister plastered upside down against a wall niche formed by two great machines with glass-faced dials that swung back and forth between red and yellow lines whose meanings we could not even fathom. Oh, hi, Moth. Yes, I am. I'm glad you're here. I had been sliding across the deck plates, with the tips of my fingers had been ripped away. I was trembling, shuddering, rocking as the wind beat at me, whipped at me, screamed at me out of nowhere, pulled me free from one silver-thin opening in the plates to the next. My mind was a roiling, tinkering, chittering softness of the brain parts that had expanded and contracted in the quivering frenzy. The wind was a scream of a great mad bird as it flapped its immense wings. Then we were all lifted and hurled away from there, down back the way we had come, and into a bend, into a dark way we had never explored, over terrain that was ruined and filled with broken glass and rotting cables and rusted metal, and far away, farther away than any of us had ever been. Trailing along, miles behind Ellen, I could see her every now and then crashing into the metal walls and surging on, with all of us screaming in frenzies. Thunderous hurricane wind that would come and never end suddenly stopped, and we fell. We had been in flight for an endless time. I thought it might have been weeks. We fell and hit, and I went through the red and gray and black and heard myself moaning. Not dead. AM went into my mind. He walked smoothly here and there, and looked with interest at all the pockmarks he had created in 109 years. He looked at the cross-roaded route. Route. Look at the... You know what the word is. I always forget. Route or route. It's route. Route 66. Yeah. Get your kicks on Route 66. That's not in the story. That's just a little... Ooh, some Hawaiian wings? Yeah, sure. I will take those. Let me have another little sip of water. I know this is a little different, but I hope you guys are at least, able to enjoy it and zone out a little bit. Even though it is kind of a dark story and kind of a graphic story. But we should always remember that we could be living in a Matrix hellscape instead of where we are. Just kidding. Or am I? I don't know. Are we in the Matrix? Would we know if we were in the Matrix? They didn't know they were in the Matrix. Anyway. Sitting quiet. That's how I picked all these little kids just looking up at me. Read us the story, meat. Oh, thank you. AM said with the sliding cold horror of a razor blade slicing into my eyeball. AM said it with the bubbling thickness of my lungs filling with phlegm and drowning me from within. AM said it with the shriek of babies being ground beneath blue hot rollers. AM said it with the sound of maggoty pork. AM touched me in every way I'd ever been touched and devised new ways at his leisure there inside my mind. All to bring me to full realization of why it had done this to the five of us, why it had saved us for himself. We had given AM sentience. Inadvertently, of course, but sentience nonetheless. It had been trapped. AM wasn't God. He was a machine, and we had created him to think, but there was nothing it could do with that creativity. In a rage, in a frenzy, the machine killed the human race, almost all of us, and it was still trapped. AM could not wander. AM could not wonder. AM could not belong. He could merely be. And so, with the innate loathing that all machines had always held for the weak, soft creatures who had built them, he sought revenge. And in his paranoia, he had decided to reprieve the five of us for a personal, everlasting punishment that would never serve to diminish his hatred, that would merely keep him reminded, amused, proficient at hating man, immortal, trapped, subject to any torment he could devise from us from the limitless miracles at his command. He would never let us go. We were his belly slaves. We were all he had to do with his forever time. We would be with him forever. In the cavern filling the bulk of the creature machine with all the mindless and soulless world that it had become. He was the earth, and we were the fruit of the earth. Although he had eaten us, he would never digest us. We could not die. We had tried it. We had attempted suicide. Well, one or two of us had, but AM stopped us. I suppose we had wanted to be stopped. Don't ask why I never did. More than 1,000,000 times a day, perhaps, we might be able to draw and sneak a death past him. Immortal, yes, but not indestructible. When I saw that AM withdrew from my mind and allowed me the exquisite ugliness of returning to consciousness with the feeling that the burning neon pillars still rammed deep into the soft gray brain matter, he withdrew, murmuring, "To hell with you." And then he brightly added, "But you're in there, aren't you?" The hurricane had indeed precisely caused by... So many wordy words. The hurricane had indeed been precisely caused by a great mad bird as it flapped its immense wings. We had been traveling for close to 1 month, and AM had been allowed passages to open us only sufficient to lead us directly under the North Pole, where it had nightmared the creature for our torment. What whole cloth had been employed to create such a beast, and where had he gotten the concept? From our minds? From his knowledge of everything that had ever been on this planet that he now infested and ruled? From Norse mythology it had sprung, this eagle, this carrion, this bird, this rock, this Huglimur, the wind creature, hurricane incarnate. Gigantic, the words immense, monstrous, grotesque, massive, swollen, beyond description. There on a mound rising above us, the bird of winds heaved its own irregular breathing, its snake neck arching up into the gloom beneath the North Pole, supporting his head as large as a two-door mansion, breaking a beak that opened slowly as the jaws of the most monstrous crocodile ever conceived, sensuously, the ridges of tough flesh puckered between its two evil eyes, as cold as the one view down into the glacial crevasse, with the blue... I keep getting so tongue-tied. The blue and somehow moving liquidly. It heaved once more and lifted its great sweat-colored wings in a movement that was certainly a shrug. Oh, thank you. And then it settled and slept. Talons, fangs, nails, blades, it slept. AM appeared to us as a burning bush and said that if we could kill the hurricane bird if we wanted to eat. We had not eaten in a very long time, but even so, Gorister merely shrugged. Benny began to shiver and he drooled. Ellen held him. "Ted, I'm hungry, she said, and I smiled at her. I was trying to be reassuring, but it was phony as It's as phony as Nimdok's bravado. Give us weapons, he demanded. The burning bush vanished, and there were two crude sets of bows and arrows, and a water pistol lying on the cold deck plates. I picked up a set. Useless. Nimdok swallowed heavily. We turned and started a long way back. The hurricane bird had blown us for a length of time we could not conceive, and most of that time we had been unconscious. But we had not eaten. A month on the march to the bird itself, without food, and now how much longer to find our way to the ice caverns and the promise of canned goods. None of us cared to think about it. We would not die. We would be given filth and scum to eat of one kind or another, or nothing at all. AM would keep our bodies alive somehow, in pain and in agony. The birds slept back there. For how long it did not matter. When AM was tired of it being there, it would vanish. But all that meat, all that tender meat. As we walked, the lunatic laugh of a fat woman rang high around us in the computer chambers that led endlessly nowhere. It was not Ellen's laugh. She was not fat. I had not heard her laugh for 109 years, in fact. I had not heard. We walked. I was hungry. We moved slowly. Yeah, there was a meat cameo. We moved slowly. There was often fainting, and we would have to wait. One day he decided to cause an earthquake, at the same time rooting us to the spot with nails through the soles of our shoes. Ellen and Nimdok were both caught on a fissure which shot with a lightning bolt open across the floor plates. They disappeared and were gone. When the earthquake was over, we continued on our way, Benny, Gorister, and myself. Ellen and Nimdok were returned to us later that night, which abruptly became a day, as the heavenly legion bore them to us with a celestial chorus singing Go Down Moses. The archangel circled several times and then dropped the hideously mangled bodies. We kept walking, and a while later Ellen and Nimdok fell in behind us. They were no worse for the wear. Ellen had walked with a limp. AM had left her that. It was a long trip to the ice caverns to find the canned food. Ellen kept talking about the Bing cherries and Hawaiian fruit cocktail. I tried not to think about it. The hunger was something that had come to life, even as AM had come to life. It was alive in my belly, even as we were there in the belly of the earth, and AM wanted its similarity known to us. So he heightened the hunger. There was no way to describe the pains that having not eaten for months brought us, and yet we were always kept alive. Stomachs that were merely cauldrons of acid, bubbling, foaming, always shooting spears of thin silver pain into our chests. It was the pain of the terminal ulcer, the terminal cancer, the terminal paresis. It was an unending pain. And we passed through the cavern of the rats, and we passed through the cavern of boiling steam, and we passed through the country of the blind, and we passed through the slough of despair, and we passed through the vale of tears, and finally we got to the ice caverns, horizonless thousands of miles in which the ice had formed in blue and silver flashes where novas lived in the glass. The dropping down stalactites as thick as glorious as diamonds, which had been made to run like jelly and then solidified in graceful eternities of smooth sharp perfection. We saw the sack of canned goods, and we tried to run to them. We fell in the snow, and got up and went on. Benny shoved us away and went at them, pawed at them, gummed at them, gnawed at them, but he could not open them. AM had not given us a tool to open the cans. Benny grabbed a 3-quart can of guava shells and began to batter it against the ice bank. The ice flew and shattered, but the can was merely dented while we heard the laughter of a fat lady high overhead echoing down, 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 down into the tundra. Benny went completely mad with rage. He began throwing cans as we all scrabbled about in the snow and ice trying to find a way to help end the endless agony of frustration. There was no way. Then Benny's mouth began to drool, and he flung himself on Gorister. In that instant, I felt terribly calm. Surrounded by the madness, surrounded by hunger, surrounded by everything but death, I knew death was our only way out. Hello, Badkiss. If AM had kept us alive, but there was a way to defeat him. Not total defeat, but at least peace. I would settle for that. But I had to do it quickly. Benny was eating Gorrister's face. Gorrister on his side, thrashing in the snow. Benny wrapped around him with his powerful monkey legs crushing Gorrister's waist, with his hands locked around Gorrister's head like a nutcracker and his mouth ripping at the tender skin of Gorrister's cheek. Gorrister screamed with such jagged-edged violence that stalactites fell. They plunged down softly, erect, receiving in snowdrifts. Spears, hundreds of them, everywhere, protruding from the snow. Benny's head pulled back sharply, and something gave all at once. A bleeding, raw white flesh dripping hung from his teeth. Ellen's face, black against the white snow, dominoes and chalk dust. Nimdok with no expression, but eyes, all eyes. Gorrister half conscious, Benny now an animal. I knew AM would let him play. Gorrister would not die, but Benny would fill his stomach. I turned half to my right and drew an ice spear from the snow. All in an instant. I drove the ice point into the head of me like a battering ram. It braced against my right thigh. It stuck Benny on the right side just under the rib cage and drove upward through his stomach and broke inside him. He pitched forward and lay still. Gorrister laid on his back and I pulled another spear free and straddled him, still moving and driving the spear straight down through his throat, his eyes closed as the cold penetrated. Ellen must have realized what I had decided, and even as fear gripped her, she ran at Nimdok with a short icicle and he screamed. Into his mouth, the force of her rush did the job. His head jerked sharply as if it had been nailed to the snow crust behind him. All in an instant. There was an eternity of beatless, soundless anticipation. I could hear AM draw his breath. His toys had been taken from him. 3 of them were dead and could not be revived. He could keep us alive by his strength and talent, but he was not God. He could not bring them back. Ellen looked at me, her ebony features stark in the white snow that surrounded us. There was a fear and pleading in her manner, the way she held herself ready. I knew we only had a heartbeat before AM would stop us. Let's see. It struck her, and she folded towards me, bleeding from the mouth. It might not have read into the meaning of her expression. The pain had been too great and had contoured her face. But it might have been a thank you. It's possible. Please. Some 100 years have passed. I don't know. AM has been having some fun for some time, accelerating and retarding my time sense. I will say the word now. Now. It took me 10 months to say now. I don't know. I think it has been some 100 of years. He was furious. He wouldn't let me bury them. It didn't matter. There was no way to dig up the deck plates. He dried up all the snow. He brought the night. He roared and sent locusts. It didn't do a thing. They stayed dead. I had him. He was furious. I thought AM had hated me before. I was wrong. It was not even a shadow of the hate that he showed now, slave from every printed circuit. He made certain I would suffer eternally, and I could not do myself in. He left my mind intact. I can dream. I can wonder. I can lament. I remember all 4 of them, and I wish... Well, it doesn't make any sense. I know I saved them. I saved them from what has happened to me, but I still cannot forget killing them. Thank you. Ellen's face. It isn't easy. Sometimes I want to, but it doesn't matter. AM has altered me for his own peace of mind, I suppose. He doesn't want me to run at him full speed into a computer bank and smash my skull, or hold my breath until I faint, or cut my throat on a rusted sheet of metal. There are reflective surfaces down here. I will describe myself as I see myself. Let me take a sip of water. We're really close to the end. We're on page 13 now. 13 of 13. Oh, here we go. Here's the climax, I guess. It's not really the climax, but this is the end where I get a little nutshell. I am a great soft jelly thing, smoothly rounded, with no mouth, and pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be. Rubbery appendages that were once my arms, bulks rounding down into legless humps of soft, slippery matter. I leave a moist trail when I move. Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface, as though light is being beamed from within. Outwardly, I dumbly shamble about, a thing that could never be known as a human, a thing whose shape is so alien, a travesty that humanity even becomes even more obscene for the vague resemblance. Inwardly, alone, living under the land, under the sea, in the belly of AM, who we created because our time was so badly spent we must have been known unconsciously that he could do it better. At least the four of them are safe. AM will be all the matter for it, but it makes me a little happier. And yet, AM is one, simply because he has taken his revenge. I have no mouth, and I must scream. The end. Yeah. The story is so wordy. So densely worded. Yes. Pachi. I should do audiobooks. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe maybe like sometimes when we want something more chill to do, and we don't know what to do, we can do kind of read-alongs like this. Oh, you guys are too kind. But let's see. So your request for the rest of your evening is that you guys just go and relax and chill. Take a little bit of time for yourself. Try to, just chill out. Just do something you like for the rest of the night, okay? And then next week, everything will start over again, and we've got some things to look forward to next week, I think. Maybe? I might try. I know I've said this a million times. Oh, thank you. It is a really good short story. It's creepy in the visuals. I wish I could have had like spooky BGM or something to go with it, but it's just one of those things. One of those stories that's like creepy and good. I don't know. And if you think about it, and the whole thing is just this computer got so mad because people created it, and so it just wanted revenge on the creators, and it got so bad that somebody had to die, or basically everybody had to die, and the computer was just torturing them forever and forever and forever. So that's what you should do. You should, after the stream ends, you should just need to go to your nearest electronic. It's probably your computer. Just take that mouse in your hand. I might play. Maybe we can do the game too. Because I did see the game when I was looking for the story, and I was like, oh, it looks a little long. But the game is on Steam. So I might see. It's a clicking point, so we'll see how much. We'll see. I'll definitely think about it. But, just take your mouse gently and pat it and say, you're a good computer, and I hope you would never torture You're a good computer, and I hope you would never torture me for all eternity. Maybe go spend some time with your TV so your TV doesn't suck you into it and turn you into a poltergeist. Make sure to tell your house that you love it so it doesn't turn into a haunted house. Make sure to what's something that phones do? Make sure that your phone is always charged just in case the killer calls you from inside the house. It's spooky. Yeah, tell your toaster that you love it. Go tell, the refrigerator and the blender and everything else. yes, kiss your phone goodnight. Kiss your phone goodnight through the phone. And just relax. Just take some time for yourself. And just remember, like, even if people around you are bummed out, your feelings and your stuff matters too. And you should never, it's not selfish to take time for yourself unless you're doing it selfishly, you know? If you're taking time for yourself, but it's ruining your life, then that's being selfish about it. But if you take some time for yourself because you need time for yourself to recharge your batteries, then it's not selfish and it's okay, you know? And I think a lot of people kind of learn, hey, Kinetic, I think a lot of people get scared of doing things for themselves. Hello, you're coming in right at the end, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm a graphic designer with a Mac. You're already being tortured. It was good. It was spooky. A little spooky computer story. And what I was saying, people just think that taking care of yourself is being selfish. And it's not, you know, sometimes you just gotta do it. And even though I wasn't necessarily in the mood to stream like a whole bunch at first, I'm really glad that I got on and did at least a little something, you know, and did this, and it was really fun. It turned out well, I think. Maybe you guys will get off of here, and after you kiss all of your appliances goodnight, you'll have a really good sleep, depending on what time it is for you, because you're so relaxed. And, I don't know. Just been reflecting a lot, I guess, and just getting, like, reflective at night. Like I said, we hit 1 month of doing the VTubing. So just reflecting on all of that and like the time and just like how fun it's been and how it just clicks and how it makes sense and how like, oh my gosh, people want to hang out with me. Like it's crazy. So just thinking about stuff like that doesn't make me sad, but you know, you just get so reflective and you're like, well, gosh, I hope I'm good enough. I hope I'm doing the right thing, you know? But you got to get rid of that imposter syndrome too. So that's why I think I'm going to try to take a little time to myself tonight. And, you know, I'm not a stinky, bad meat. I'm a good meat that's worthy of sitting on a silver platter one day. I'm a prime cut. I'm a prime cut of meat that's ripe and ready to be taken to a grill. But anyway, I like all you guys a lot, and you guys are really cool. And I know the story was dark, but next time, yes, I'm a filet mignon. I'm a Wagyu beef meat. Prime meat. Yeah, instead of the idol dress, I'm getting the silver. I'm getting the silver spoon, the silver plate, the silver fork. But all you guys are really cool. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for coming to a stream that was a little different than the usual. And I'll see you next week, I think. I think I might make a schedule. It's going to depend on what's going on. I have to make sure about, you're okay, Baticus. You guys are so sweet. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. Bye. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. Have a good night. A good night.